sure or trusted that.
LiJo.
Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Lindsay LiJo here, and I have the privilege of being joined by the great Dave Powers from Objective Personality. Known Dave for a long time. Welcome, Dave.
Hey, thanks for setting this up. I have a squirrel
Cool.
that'll be coming by as well. There's
Yeah,
two of us over here.
the people pay extra for the squirrels.
Yeah.
So we wanted to dive into a subject today of as it relates to triggers, the things that people can't really control as a part of their own psychology. I've gotten to see this a lot recently playing poker and being in a very controlled environment in terms of the structure of a game, but then realizing you really are able to see the differences in how people get elevated in a way that they can't control. So I think we can all
Yeah.
say we do anything, we can all, we can, oh, I do this, I do that. But when it comes down to it, the trigger is something that like actually happens within the body and the mind. And so I
Right.
think it's a little bit less controllable.
Right. Yeah, that's what we're always saying. We're tracking not what you can do because humans are very polite and can mimic everybody. It's what can you not do? Where are you
Mhm.
getting super stuck and you can't stop that? Yeah, that's really good.
Yeah. And I think for this video, we're gonna focus on the triggers as it relates to really the last animal. Dave, what are your thoughts on the last animal and how that kind of um, gets people throughout their lifetime?
Yeah. Yeah, Shandy and I both kind of independently landed on that from watching people and watching ourselves and watching each other. That the last animal seems to be the big one or a biggest one. I would say if the top three. And well, let me kind of set the stage. I think a lot of it is dependent on where a person is in their life. And so I think
Mhm,
if you're to throw a dart at the board, most people, most of the time, it's going to be their last animal is their biggest deal that they're just completely unaware of. But you'll see some people, like if you see some celebrities or some kids on the other side of the spectrum, where their last animal is not the biggest thing causing the biggest problem in their life, where they're stuck. I know for myself right now at this time in my life, like breaking down all the functions and stuff, my last animal of consume definitely is the one that I'm not getting the passing grade on. Like if I were to break it down, like sensory is kind of dyslexic. There's frustration, like logging into Zoom. There's frustration, with the sensory, or I'll have to OE, sign up for a new account or go side to side. So it's sensory OE. But then like the consume of like, okay, at the end of the week, am I taking in time for myself to do something new that's going to then recharge the rest of life? It's like, no, because I'm just too
mhm,
busy doing the blaster routine. So it's like, I'm able to see at this point in time that like, if I were to look at like a workout program, like a lagging muscle part, it's like, okay, for myself and for most people, the last animal is the hardest one. But then also what I'm seeing is hopefully by the time I'm 55, that's not where I'm stuck anymore. Hopefully it's not my
mhm,
last animal. Hopefully it's going to be like a social need or something like that. But
mhm.
yeah, most of the time for most people, seeing the last animal is probably the biggest one, if not the last function. But yeah, last animal is a
Yeah,
good one. Yeah, because you
yeah,
can't. People don't see it. Like you'll have pain with your last function. You'll freak out, but a lot of times you don't even realize. You don't even think about. Wait, I'm supposed to consume this week. I didn't even realize that. Huh? What? And then that builds
yeah.
up.
And
Especially
it's
hard.
almost like, yeah, I know. And it's also like, I think it's like a lack of respect to kind of towards that. Like, because I think, you can go through life and you can see people doing things and like doing consume. Like, I can witness people doing consume. And I may even know that, like, oh, yeah, I need to do that more. Like, I can, but I know for majority of my life and like even, through to today, it's hard to genuinely like, be like, "That's very important,"
Right.
to incorporate in my life. Like, I'm kinda like, "Eh, that's kinda fake," but I'm like, "No, it's not," like, and then I have to
Right.
reframe how I'm looking at it, but it almost
Yeah.
seems like it's fake in terms of its, like, need.
Yeah. Right. Right. Yeah. If you really want to make progress on your last animal, it's actually stare at your double activated one. For you and I both, that's blast. Now you're blast first,
Mhm,
I'm blast second, but both of us are double activated blast. And the problem is our blast. So in some way, shape, or form, we're trying to produce, we're trying to get super efficient in some kind of routine that we're in. And
mhm.
it's funny, there's a delay, it's like you can start to realize like, oh man, my life is off. But like it doesn't mean like in 24 hours you're gonna change it. Like you could be bending a lot of energy to it's
Yeah.
like a workout thing, like this is going to take you a long time to get in shape. So it's like for myself, when I'm trying to look at the consume last, for example, I don't spend as much time looking at the consume last and going, well, what do I like? If I were to get a new shirt, what shirt would I get? And if I go to a haircut place, like I've like gone in circles, just that
Right.
doesn't go anywhere. Or it's
Yep.
not where my, it's more of like, why am I still blasting? When am I going to get sick of blasting? When am I going to be the one that gets caught up with where everyone else is tired and like, hey, do you have a day off?
Yeah.
Do you ever want to do anything new? And so I think kind of in stages is like, that's what we were saying earlier of like kind of judging yourself according to where you are in the age group. Part of the process is you have to get sick of that addiction. You got to get sick of that first function. You got to get sick of the
Mhm.
double activated animal. You got to get sick of high school to want to go to college. You got to get sick of college to be like, all right, you know what? Fuck college. Let me go out in the real world. Then you got to get sick of that before you go, move on. Got to get sick of being single before you get married. Like, there's a
Mhm.
big thing of like you've got to get sick of where you're at, and so the consciousness of this stuff does really
Mhm.
help people a lot of kind of going, when you get caught, you're like, oh, I like as every Friday, I'm like, well, there you go. Like we have like an ending, like we record on Monday and there's like, I have so many different things I'm working on. It's so stupid. It's so like just one of many is just the whole production train. And so it's like record
Yeah.
on Monday and then like it's the editors all finalize on Friday and I'm like show prepping on the weekends and stuff. So there's like
Mhm.
some like Friday is like a somewhat of a finish of one of the projects, but
Mhm.
Friday is a beginning of a whole other work cycles I
A
have.
whole
So,
other
anyways,
thing,
there's like I'll
yeah.
get like it's so stupid. So like I'll get summoned in a reflection of like, do you have a nice week? Was that good? Like
Mhm.
the a positive antagonist going, hey, you had enough yet? Are you did you have fun doing all that blast? How old are you
Yeah.
now?
Are
You're
you
40.
enjoying this yet?
That kind of
Yeah.
gotta get to that point.
Mhm.
It is a like you were saying, it's a body thing, it's a chemical thing, I'm sick of it. I can't do this anymore. And you'll hear people talk about that, like this rock bottom, where they're like, okay, that's it. I'm done. So kind
Yeah.
of a lot there. It's kind of a lot there. That, like I swear to God, for everybody, like by the time you're 70 and you're looking back, it makes so much sense. But it's so hard to see it when you're going through it, unless you're staring at somebody else, watching
Yeah.
them, and then trying to flip that math on yourself.
Yeah, and I think that right, like, it's like you have to get sick of it, but it's also there's the element of if there's not enough pressure that you built into your life, then it's easy not to get sick of, and
Right.
then and then you're kinda stuck in that place till the end, and I did an interview with this psychotherapist who I've worked with for years, and he deals with a lot of people who are, have had major diagnosis, like, in their life,
Oh yeah, on
so,
your
like, they
channel a couple
yeah.
months ago, right? Yeah, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. And he has some really good nuggets in there, but he was saying how, like living an incongruent life, sometimes people don't realize it until they get the big diagnosis or whatever. And
Yeah.
I'm like, it has to be hard to keep up for so many years, was like my comment to him. And he's like, it's not. He used to work in a hospice center where people were like at their very, very last days. And he's
Yeah.
like, these people have lived their entire life. And so I was like, wow, like, that was so mind-blowing to me that, like, people were able to keep that up for so long without really having that pressure to push them into another stage, and it just made me grateful that, there was enough pressure built into my life at this point to kind of at least get me where I
Yeah.
am.
Yeah, right. Very much so. There's so much big picture of timeline when it comes to your own personal growth and where you are in the span of evolutionarily millions of years. Okay, so what the hell does that mean? What I'm really seeing is if you look at all this psychology stuff from an evolutionary point of view, if you look at it in the context of thousands of years and billions of people over time, it's like it makes so much sense the way that these trickery programs work in our mind that they're just supposed to trick you until you're about 30, and then chances are you're dead. So
Mhm.
you never find out, like our baby squirrel here. We're just watching her just running on a bunch of programs, and if she lived to be 100 years old, she'd be pretty damn miserable. But it's like
Yeah.
you see the animals out in the wild. I'm always fascinated too. It's like the squirrel will live like 5 years in the wild and like 15 years in captivity. Like it's a huge different timeline. So it's like
Really?
I've had a yeah, I've had to learn with this psychology stuff that if I just want to run off of my programs, then a lot of it is just my environment, it's time, it's luck. Roll the dice. Maybe you'll get into a niche, and my savers will work out. And I happen to be born in a time and a place and a country where if I just get up and I just do my saviors, everything's great. And then I die before I wake up about that, before the
Mhm.
society changes or the environment changes, which has been true for a lot of people and still is for, well, it's hard today because everybody's living too long and the world is changing too fast. I think that's where
Yeah.
everybody going forward is going to get caught. You can't just be like, I'm a farmer and nothing changes my whole life and I only live to 40. Like
Yeah, you
that's
don't
kind
get
of
that
going away.
privilege
So
anymore.
yeah, so I've wrestled with that and I've gone, okay, because you're always looking for somebody to blame your parents or blame God or whatever. So I'm like, all
Mhm.
right, I'm gonna blame my parents, I'm gonna blame God, I'm gonna blame evolution, I'm gonna blame the aliens up until I'm 25 or 30. And then if I live longer than that, I have to take responsibility that if I want to live to 90, that I'm on my own because
Yeah.
evolution is sitting back going, look, dude, you're 46. I am not responsible to keep your silly dumbass happy. Like, where's happiness in the cards? Evolution's like, look, I just want you to reproduce,
Yeah,
think that you're saving the world and continue on,
and
fight
then
the Nazis.
yeah. Yeah, there is
Yeah,
no yeah, it's not a
yeah.
part of the survival equation.
Right, because we just waste so much time going, nobody knows how miserable I am, nobody knows how unhappy I am, and it's like, yeah, and nobody cares because you're on a planet where largely the game is survival, reproduce, etc.
Yeah, that's
And
it.
happiness is a subset inside of that. Doesn't mean you can't get that. That's all I want as well
Mhm.
in my life as well. But knowing the responsibility that I got to consciously look at the environment, consciously look at the jobs, and go, okay, is now the time that sleep last play is what's needed here? Because 1 out of 32 times it is, or whatever the number is. Every once in a
Yeah,
while it is. Like,
yeah.
yes. And then it goes away, and then you're like, oh no, I've got to this right now, And then you can separate this sucks, this is draining, I hate this, versus what you're talking about with the older people, building meaning or building something that I'll be happy when I get older. Then you're getting a delayed gratification,
Mhm.
right? So I catch her. She's too wiggly. She's not in cozy mode. She'll be back.
Ex extra noodly.
Yeah,
Um,
noodle. No, come here, noodle.
yeah.
Come here, you. There she goes. Her cuddles are in the morning, and then playtime is the rest of the day.
I love it.
Yeah.
Um, cool, so let's kind of hop over into the, the box of triggers, as I like to call them. So and I kind of prompted these as questions that, are not necessarily to be it's not about the answer, but it's about the perception, the reaction to the idea of it itself, right? So I think
Yeah.
actually what will be easiest is if we start with consume last, um, because we kind of both fall into that category together.
No, you.
Um, no, you. um, and actually, the idea of this video came from like a split second with you and Shannon. You guys were talking about a shirt, and you were like, "Don't ask me about the shirt." And I was like, "Oh, like," and like I felt that in my body. Like I felt that. Like I was like, if someone asked me, like I forgot what it was, like tell me about the shirt that you're wearing. I think that was the
Yeah.
question. And
Yeah.
like I thought about if someone asked me that, and I had like this same like uncomfortableness within myself that I was just like, it's like almost like a repulsion to like
Yeah.
to go down that. And I could answer whatever, I'm sure I could put on a very eloquent, political statement of what my shirt is, about or whatever it is. But like
Yeah.
the reality is, it's like there's something that's gonna leak through that is genuine to my sentiment towards um tell me about your shirt. So what else do you think will prompt someone in the same way who is consumed last? What are some similar kinds of scenarios or questions that you think would fall into this box?
Yeah, the consume last questions or triggers the people will like ask them. Yeah, that's a hard one to start first because like consume last is it's like it does seem to be the hardest one to see. I feel like the
Uh,
sleep last can see their sleep last. The consume last are like, wait, what? So yeah, it is. I think there is a difference between like you and I have SE, FI, consume last. That's going to be
mhm,
random sensory experiences
right.
that we value. So it might be. like if people are asking you about your makeup or your hair or your clothes or where you get your nails done or whatever, or how you decorate your studio, or just something that where it's just going to be like our physical things that we like, that are cozy, that we value. Let me like talk this out. Like the resistance will come from like we don't want to justify a lot of time of like, oh yeah, I spend all day Friday getting my nails done or my haircut done, or finding new clothes or shopping, or I spent
Mhm.
all weekend shopping for new clothes or new shoes because I love the color blue or whatever. Because then we just feel so guilty that we're not producing, you know. So the consume gets kind of left for dead. So we'll show up at a restaurant with friends and I'll be like, I'll just get a burger. I'll just get whatever I usually get, and then
Yeah,
everybody else
it's too
orders
much
something new.
pressure. Yeah,
Yeah. And then,
yeah,
like, do they eat off other people's plates when they, like, go through all the menu and take the risk, and every
yeah,
once in a while, they get something amazing, like, "Oh my gosh, that." And
yeah.
then, you're like, "I'll
Now
get
you know
that."
for next
That's
time. Yeah.
Yeah, I did. I found a little, a gyro platter that we went out and somebody daringly ordered that,
Yeah,
and I might have had some, and I'm like, "Okay, so I'm gonna mask on sensory remember that." So it's like that. It's like,
right.
how do I know the next time I go to McMinnigan's, I'm gonna get a gyro thing or whatever? It's like, because somebody else actually did it, and then I'm gonna just, like, steal from them.
Yeah,
I'm
you
never
steal
gonna.
it.
Yeah, like, what am I gonna do? Take the time and the money to go down and be like, "Oh, let's start on the menu. Let's
Yeah,
try
let's
this."
try something different. The other one wasn't
No.
so good. I don't wanna have waste time on something that, like, isn't sufficient, you
Yeah.
know? And it's like, I'd rather just go with what I know, like, is sufficient,
Right.
and then just kind of move past it. Because again, it's not about respecting the experience, like, especially with the SE, or, like, the default is not to respect the experience, it's, like, to move through it, and
Right,
then
move through it.
mhm,
Yeah, move through it. Yeah, yeah. Because the consume last, we're also extroverts and we're also energy dom. So all of us are trying to be efficient and we're trying to like get shit done and move it along. And
yeah,
so the feeling, that's what I was talking about earlier, of like the more I can see how satanic double activated blast is, that helps me then to get room for consume.
yeah,
Otherwise I'm just fighting consume so hard until I can, it's like back when we discovered IJ stuff. It's like once you can
mhm,
dial down the OI, you
the
can
control,
relax.
yeah,
Yeah, the
yeah,
control. So I'm trying to hit the wave head on. I'm let's see if this works out, because I'm kind of assessing my life. I'm like, wow, I'm really fucked this way or that way. So which way do I want to do this? I'm like, well, consciously, I do feel like what I'm going to do this next year is I am actually going to go more in on the blast. I know it sounds crazy, but this is my plan. So I'm saying
mhm,
this out loud for accountability. So
okay,
by the summer of 2024, it's like, I'm working with other people and stuff like that. So it's like it's looking more like I can get everything to where the blast is getting taken care of with
mhm,
not just sleep blast play me. That what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to starve myself out to where my job and customers and team and everyone around me is like, dude, you have weekends off. Okay, we all know you have
mhm,
weekends off. You don't need help
yeah,
with thumbnails or whatever needs to get worked on or whatever. We got this. We
yeah,
got
like,
this.
you have yeah,
Yeah.
you have us
So
to
I feel
rely on now.
Right. So I feel like I got to get bored. So there's like break it in steps. I gotta like
Mhm,
I gotta choose to be done with the blast addiction and then actually do the work to make that happen, because I can't just snap my fingers, because I have, and then I do have a lot of plates spinning. So I can't just,
mhm,
hey everybody, I'm gonna go on vacation for my consume.
right,
Everyone's like,
yeah,
great. What wait, what? Right?
yeah, what are we doing?
Yeah, that. So then I got to get to where I'm bored, and then I think in that bored space is where now new feelings can start to, and
Yeah,
that's
you're so
already
right.
kind of happening. Yeah, that's already
Mhm,
starting to happen. I'm getting little flickers of time, or I'm getting like, I'll get like an hour off or 2 hours off every once in a while, and like I'll get that calmness and quiet of boredom, and I'll feel consumed start to peep its head out, and then it's Monday morning and I got to go. But I'm like, okay,
yeah.
I see the path, I see the way out of it, even though I'm not there yet.
Yeah.
Kind
No,
kind of
definitely,
a
and
ramble.
the boredom too there, like, when I've been wanting to, like, kind of get to that more place of, like, boredom, but, like, not focus on the production, I've been taking out my iPad recently and been drawing on it, just, like, these little, like, noodly drawings, you know? And,
Yeah.
like, I just kinda keep going. So, like, even when I kind of feel like, "Oh, I need to kinda move on to something else," I really know that, like, I've done everything that needs to be done, I really don't have an excuse, and, like, kind of just allowing myself to be in that state of, like, mindless boredom. And then like it's
Yeah.
at that point that I actually start to enjoy like that creative process a little bit more.
Right. Right, right. Yeah, totally. This little buddy has helped me slow down in life and just,
Yeah.
stare out the window and enjoy.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. The guy Ryan Doris I was mentioning earlier,
Hmm.
like, he talks about, like, staring at a wall to, like, recalibrate your dopamine receptors, like, in between tasks and stuff. So, that is something that
Very
that's
cool.
is genius, like, to it's like just coming off of caffeine to make it more better the next time you go on it. You know what I mean? It's like, yeah, I
Yeah.
want to get more done. Well, how do you get more done? Well, you actually do less for a little bit and then get
Yeah.
those boredom chemicals charged back up. And all of a sudden,
Yeah. And then you're way more powered.
yeah, yeah. And then also too now trying to be objective of like, all right, I don't want to be somebody that's just going in my saver jollies anymore. Those are great and all, but I do actually want to get the damn work done. Like
Hmm.
how how can I get, because it's funny too, it's like, if you look at any of the types, it's like, how does the EJ get more love? It's like when they decide to prioritize themselves and love themselves first, then
Yeah.
everybody like loves that. Like it's just a switcheroo.
Hmm.
So it's like it's funny. The more I do selfishly still want more blast. And it's like, well, the way to do that is to actually slow down and do the consume. You know,
Yeah. So that you
same
have
same.
more, 100%. Everything's
Right.
balanced, the yin and the yang at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Um, so to come back to like the consume last, so okay, so I'll give you the one that I think most recently was asked of me. It might have even been in a YouTube interview or something like that. That I was like, I had the same like kind of consume last reaction over, which it was tell me about the last book you read.
Oh yeah.
And like reading a book like cover to cover, like because I'm like assuming that's what they're talking about because of like last book
Yeah.
you read, like the whole thing, and I'm like again, it was like kind of on the spot, and I'm like going through my brain of like how far back can I go because
Yeah.
like kind of the Tai Lopez effect. I'm hopping through chapters. Like I'll get a book,
Right.
I'm gonna read, get a few pieces here and there, and then I'm like, cool, love it,
Yeah.
But I
Right.
know that's not it. So, but I can't really say that either. Or if I do, it's like a lot of kind of TE explaining comes along the way.
Yeah. Right. Right.
Um, yeah.
Yeah.
And
That's a
then
yeah. Yeah. Go on. Yeah.
no, I was just, so like the tell me about the last book you read was a big one.
Yeah.
And then also another one where like I'll get the consume last response is the if someone says, hey, you want to watch a movie? And I'm like, my first thought is like, how long is it?
Yeah.
And then it's like I get this like itch of like, oh, it's only 2.5 hours. It's only 2 hours. And I'm like, I don't know if I can commit to that. Like that's how I feel on the inside. It's like, and then it's like, if I do watch a movie, it's like I want to have like my iPad there just in case I want to play
Right.
chess or like turn my attention
Yeah.
away. Like I'm not stuck. I have to consume it. Like so it's like
Yes.
almost like an anxiousness that comes along with like the commitment to consume.
Yeah.
And it's also that's very difficult if you're around someone who's like a consume savior because they're like, no, you have to respect the consume, you
Right.
know?
I know. 'Cause this I feel like they don't have anything else to do. It's like, oh, I have so much to do. Yeah. I can only watch movies on fast speed. It's been sad to watch that my consume last is like consumed movies now or like eating them up. So like I'll
Mhm.
watch a movie and I'll put it on fast speed. Whoa. And I'll be like, well, this is just the car chase scene. I could just fast forward to that. Like, oh, this is
Yeah,
just the talking scene. I could fast forward to. Oh, this is just the love scene. I could fast forward. And then like I'm
yeah,
like, well, what scene are you waiting for? What scene are you
yeah.
looking for?
What's
I don't
left?
even. There's nothing left.
It's like you just
Yeah,
didn't
that's a.
really want to watch it, I guess.
Yeah, yeah. I think so. I think with our everybody's demons, there's like a big scorekeeping thing with the triggering.
Mhm,
So what I noticed with the consumers is like in the OEs is like they'll go through they'll watch a 2.5 hour movie on slow speed just because there'd be like one little nugget in there that they can like take away for themselves and enhance themselves. And
mhm,
you and I are just like keeping score of like, okay, so that's 90 minutes and or however many and only 1 minute. This is super inefficient. And if I just would have skimmed it over, I could have like, I'm just running all these efficiency equations and we just will keep score on if it's not fast, if it's not efficient, if I can't use this for
mhm,
if I can't watch some new martial art moves from Denzel Washington for my own self-defense, and why the hell am I spending time watching a movie? Like it has
mhm.
to go back into the machine. So I
Yeah,
think just being conscious of that, of like, you know, um, consciously going, all right, I want to watch something new because I am going to look for one or two things that I can take for myself. Like I feel like the more I can get ready for it,
Mhm.
because yeah, if somebody just if somebody just like, hey, let's do this, and I'm
That
not,
throws it on you. Yeah, yeah. "Hey,
oh,
Dave,
that
Dave, you wanna go watch Titanic?"
right, right now, yeah,
Yeah.
I got this chaos monkey. This is
No.
like it's like perfect practice for me because it's just all day. Or she's not like this all day. She's just like this because I'm on the thing and I'm not playing with her. But it's
Oh,
been
yeah.
a great uh, chaos practice as well as like keeps me moving with the clock. So I gotta like get my work done
Mhm.
by 2 o'clock so I can go on to other things.
Yeah. No,
Oh my
that's
gosh.
good. Um, okay, so I like all that on the consume. Let's hit a few of the other animals. So, and you're gonna have more experience, I would say, than myself because you've just kind of at this point talked to more people in your life. But
Yeah.
and so when let's go to blast last. I think it's a good counterpart to
I
the
got a
the
lot on
consume
that one.
last. So how do you trigger someone with blast last?
Jeez. How do you trigger it's so I see with like just Shan's my reference point.
Mhm,
Um, so it's just like never ready. So like she's moving her studio. So she's like setting her studio up in a better room. And so
mhm,
I'm like, let's go. So I'm just like, all right, I can take apart the back parts, like anything with the camera and the electronics that needs consume. There's a difference. Consume or OE or sensory, I'm out. I don't fuck up
mhm.
your thing. But like the backdrop that she has with all the mechanical stuff, I'm like, oh, I can do that.
Yeah,
And so I'm like, let's go. And she's like,
yeah.
oh no, later, later, wait, later. Or like she had some stuff to throw away, so I just like put it outside. And I'm like, oh, I can take care of that. I'll just throw it in the creek. It was just like this kind of
Mhm,
like it was for the squirrels, like a sawdust kind of powdery paper stuff.
mhm.
Something that in my interpretation, like literally we have a creek in the backyard. And like
Yeah,
he just like throw it in the creek. And
yeah.
it's a bio. She's like, no, no, it's paper. Or what. I'm like, isn't everything paper? Like, so just like it's like, and it's like whether she's right or wrong or whatever, like she probably is. But the point is like I'm always erring on the side of like, let's go, let's go, let's go, let's do it now, let's get it done.
Mhm.
And so she's like, oh no, let's do that later. Let's properly throw it away and take it to a recycling center. And just all she didn't say
Gotcha.
that she didn't say that literally, but it's just like, and I
Yeah.
just kind of like walked away going, oh, no wonder she had such a hard time like just roaring through stuff
Mhm.
because and she's like double observer, so she's like seeing, and she always says this too. So she's like, oh, I just see too much. I see too much. Yeah, I'm just kind
Mm.
of talking this out.
Dang,
So,
that's true, yeah.
so like
Especially with the
you and I,
SC, yeah.
yeah. So like if you're a mope, blast last, and double observer, you're seeing way too much. And if you're a consume last SE, you're seeing the least.
Oh
So someone
gosh.
like you and I are seeing very little, which is why we're so confident. Like, oh yeah, I can do that. I can do that.
Oh yeah,
So
throw it on the creek so we can move on and get past this part where we have to actually
yeah,
have to touch it and deal with it. It's just like
right,
let's get through it. Let's not
right.
prolong the inevitable.
Right, right, exactly. So just seeing how much I will and we feed off each other in a negative way. So it's like the faster and more aggressive I become, the more she's got to put on the brakes, and I'll feel the same way the other way. So to trigger or a trigger a blast last is like, hey, let's jump in, let's do it now, let's do it sloppy, let's fuck ourselves over in the future.
Yeah.
That kind of feeling. And so it's very so I think it's very hard for the consume last to see themselves. But I think once that we do, it's like, okay, I can do that. And I feel like the sleep last are a little bit, they're like, all right, I'll do it. I get it. But I feel
Mhm.
like it's the difference between having an introvert or extrovert animal last, where I feel like the consume last, we and the sleep last, we just have to like stop being jerks for a minute. Just like, hey, would you
Mhm.
stop being such a freak and just calm down? I think it's a little easier to like calm down. Like, hey, would you like? We're just asking you to watch a movie. We're not asking you to make a movie, right? So like, in this
I
regard,
know, it's ridiculous.
yeah, right. So we're the idiots too. So like, I do see with the because you and I will get feelings. Where'd Maisie go? She's gone. like you and I will get feelings of blast last where we'll be like, oh, I don't want to do it, or I'm going to drag it on, or I'll procrastinate, or I'm stuck in the
Mhm.
doldrums, or we'll still get those feelings. It's not our dominant
Yeah.
state.
Yeah.
But
Sure.
imagine that being their dominant overactive trigger where the world is asking them for very normal stuff and they're
Mhm.
still getting that inaccurate feeling of, oh, I can't and I'm not ready.
Yeah,
um
and, like, almost like they don't deserve to, like, act on something, like, is what I've picked up too. Like, when I'm talking to people in session sometimes, one question I like to ask them is, if you were asked to go speak at a high school graduation, tomorrow about one lesson you learned after high school, what would you share with the graduating class that would be valuable to them, going to this stage of life? And you got some people who are just like, yeah, I'd say this, this is something that happened to me. I think it would be beneficial, and like, this is, something everyone should know. And then you have the people that like genuinely like, there's this feeling of like, I don't deserve to talk to a graduating class of
yeah,
people. Like I shouldn't be why would they ask? Like, why would they ask me? Like almost like this sense of
right,
like, they don't deserve. I'm like, that's not the question about like you. I'm like, you're being invited to speak at a high school graduation. What would you
yeah,
speak on? As a lesson that you learn. And like sometimes you can
yeah,
eventually drag it out of them, but like you see that like that reaction that they're having to like just like come to terms with something that's so not in alignment with their
yeah,
own psychology.
right, yeah, 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 not allowed to speak on their action or whatever you said. Yeah, it's especially if they're OE, which chances are they are if they're blast last.
Hmm.
And so it's just like, I don't want to share, I don't want to say it twice, or I already said that. I'll see Shani say that. She's like, but I already said that. I'm like, you kind
Hmm.
of said something about the topic months ago, but that has nothing to do
Hmm.
with like today moving day. Doesn't mean we have a plan or whatever. So I see the
Hmm.
blast last will have a exactly that. They'll be like, I don't want to repeat myself. I don't want to say it. I don't want to say something that I don't have authority on. I don't want to say
Yeah.
something to bore everybody. And I don't want to be an authoritative, consume last ask. And that's why I've seen the key of it is like when I've talked to people that are blast last or consume last, I'm like, hey, talk out your story of how you view the other team and watch how fucking hilarious this is. No wonder you're
Yeah.
not doing your last animal. So it's like the
Yeah.
blast last are like, well, I don't want to be like a consume last where I'm this douchebag saying the same thing, running on empty, and everybody's laughing at them with
Uh,
their pants falling down. And you're like, wait, how do you see me? I'm like, well, no wonder you don't want to do your last animal if that's how you're seeing it, you know?
yeah.
So I think getting conscious of how demonic and how bad we see our last animal, getting conscious and getting honest with that, because I
Yeah.
because
It's
I could
that's the
just
objectiveness about it.
yeah, yeah, because I'll just like I could rant for hours on how much I don't want to be like blast last, just say all this negative stuff coming from my
Hmm.
my imbalance and my experience,
That's easy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right, right. But then that's what's now subtly making your little decision making process throughout the day of
Yep.
why by the end of the month you went all the way this way and not
All
that
the
way at all.
way.
Yeah,
Yeah, exactly. It's great when you can get someone to just like unconsciously just spew on, like your last animal and like why it
yeah.
sucks.
Yeah,
That's
you got
like,
to yeah, right, because you gotta change the negatives, like, that's why ops is always about, "Hey, you gotta lesson 1, negativity, darkness. You gotta deal with that." Because
yeah.
it's like, everybody out there already has a negative story towards their demons, duh. Like, you gotta
Mhm.
know, and so you wanna bend the negative story towards your saviors. I need to be able to train myself to say bad things all day long about the double activated blast, etcetera. I remember when I did the RC airplanes,
Mhm.
like, I was like, we would Keith and I, we would like build these planes. There was so much stress. And like, as soon as you'd spend so many hundreds of dollars, so much work to get these planes to fly, and then like you throw them in the air, and every once in a while you get it to where like the plane, like it can turn left, but it can't turn right, and like so you're like moving the trim tabs, or like you're trying to like go in the computer settings and see if you get more servo throw, and like it's all the way, and so
Mhm.
like the plane is like it's just barely, and you can only make right hand turns or whatever, but you can't because there's like a tree there or whatever, and so we have these spectacular crashes, but it feels like if you just let off, if you just leave it alone, the plane's going to go to the right. But it's like takes everything you can to like fight it the other way. And so I feel like there's this. It's kind of a weird analogy, a weird feeling, but it's like I feel like we're not flying center as people. We're just going to naturally drift to one side. And if you
Mhm.
just fight as hard as you can, as hard as you can, put as much negativity as you can into your saviors,
Mhm.
you'll like barely get it straight for a second. Like you're not going to
Yeah.
overdo it, I'm never gonna
Yeah.
walk around and
You're
like and
never,
say
never, you
say
can't.
enough bad things about consume last. Just
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. You can't, and I think that's funny. You'll hear that with a lot of, like, the younger kids, like, they're afraid they're gonna lose their saviors, like, if they, like
Can't.
push negativity towards them, and I'm like, "You can't do that." Like, it's, like, literally, it's, like, it's the start of the electrical circuit, and it
Yeah, right.
starts there. Like, you don't get to not start it there. It's always gonna be there. It's always gonna be
Yeah.
first. It's like, you can't change that, you know? And the last one's always gonna be last, so it's like, might as well try to force the energy down, like, that side
Yes.
first, and, like, because the other one's still firing all the time anyway, you know?
Yeah, right, right, and you'll see it in the heroes, the old people, whatever you call them, where that you will see the sleep last person talking about sleep processing and sleep energy, and of course, when you hear from their wife and their backstory, they're still an extroverted maniac, like we know. But
Mhm.
the more that somebody is preaching their demons, the more their life is showing the positives from that, and everybody else can calm down around them, you know?
Yeah.
But it's also too, just real quick on that. It's also too like be ready to see the behind the scenes of your heroes. That yeah, they're
Mhm.
just going to be
Yep.
as soon as they're on stage and do have a lot of life results showing that they're getting more balanced. Like, hey, they're still
Mhm.
gonna,
Still
you
gonna
know,
screw it up.
yeah, right. And like you can't judge them for that because like, what are you
You
gonna do
can't.
better? You know,
Yeah.
that's why people aren't starting. Like, well, like who like people are like, well, like who is your mentors then? You know, like
Mhm.
since Jesus and all the great prophets are not here, they're all gone. Who are you gonna
Mhm.
pick? Well, I can't pick Jordan
Yeah.
Peterson because he, and I can't pick Ed Milet
Right.
because he. Like, then
No
who
one
are you gonna
wins.
pick then?
Yeah.
What's that?
No one wins. No one wins. You gotta take, like,
Right.
the best you can from whoever it is, and then, like, give credit to the fact that they've gone through the human experience enough to get them to where they are, you know?
Yeah.
And I think it's almost like there's, like, a naiveness when it's almost like when you're, like, new to doing something, and you'll see it again, like, in the younger people and, like, in the type community, is like they really will think that, like, this perfection level is attainable, or like you can only, like, you can be this example of this, and then you kind of realize that, like, no one is like 100%
Right.
100% of the time. It doesn't
Right.
exist, you know.
Right.
And
Right.
so
Right.
it's just like you got to be honest with the fact that, like, your heroes fail, like, you're gonna fail in other areas, and like it's like your resilience in getting back to the place that you were and continuing to move forward, that really,
Right.
like, to me, that's like the goal. It's like, can I get
Right.
back to where I was and continue to move, or am I gonna go off the ledge because of whatever happened, right?
Right, right,
And
yes, totally,
so
totally. I found, so Tony Robbins, all roads lead back to Tony Robbins. He's definitely got all the equations figured out, and so it's funny because he says, "Raise your standards." Like, your problem in life is your identity, and
yes.
you gotta raise your standards, and then it's just totally, if you wanna simplify stuff, just watch his TikTok, all the answers are right there. But in another context, jokingly, I say, even though I'm just joking around, when you're stressed as hell and you feel not good, if you gotta lower your standards. Like,
Hmm.
stop shooting, meaning stop shooting for perfection, idiot.
Oh,
Like,
yeah,
I'm
yeah,
shooting for
yep,
60% across the board. I'm shooting for 60.
yeah,
Now I got a
yeah.
lot of areas I'm looking at because I'm not as unconscious as I was when I was 25. Before I'm
Hmm.
like, oh, I just gotta get 100% of my savior. So it seems pretty easy, right? Then you
Yeah,
realize, oh, well, you have this demon and this demon and this responsibility and this and this. And so now I have
yeah.
all these apartments all surrounding me. And I'm like, I'm just trying to get all of them to 60. And then once I get them all to 60, and I have some at 70 and some at 46, and when I get them all at about 60, and if I'm
Hmm.
not dead yet, then I'm going to get them all to 65. And then let's see
Yeah,
how far I could go, depending how old I
totally.
get. But that has helped me. I know it sounds funny, but that's really helped me a lot. And I see that when I'll do my DI double decider thing and like push back against the tribe, like people will be like, "Hey, Dave, and you need to, and you need to," and at times, and again, the context, a lot of times I do need the correction. I am being a jackass, and I do need to listen to the tribe and all that. But there comes a time too where, like, and it's maybe more abstractly. I couldn't like point my finger at anybody or any event. I think so. It's probably just more
Hmm.
in my mind. Like, I'll feel like the tribe is judging me as accurate. I think it's more of
Uh-huh.
that. So I'll feel like the tribe is judging me, and I'll be like, you know what? Get off me. I'm only 46. I'm doing all right. Like, judge
Yeah.
me when I'm 55. I'm only shooting for 60%. I know, like, typing is a good one. Like, hey, you
Hmm.
got my typer? I'm like, okay. I can get you on that one. I never said I can get all these right. Okay, I never don't hold that on me. Don't put that on me.
Yeah.
I don't have
Yeah.
perfection with typing
Yeah.
or messing up an email or whatever. I'm shooting for,
Yeah.
60 to 90%. Judge me on,
60%.
yeah, judge me on that. And that helps a lot. That helps get consciously, because otherwise, especially with Blast Last or a lot of people, that you'll
Mhm.
you'll you'll have no idea that you have some kind of standard of perfection that you're trying to live up
Yes.
to when your life
Yep.
is actually going kind of good, but you can't take any credit for that.
Yeah.
That's a good one to dig up.
Yeah, no, it is, and you'll see, like, the consume saviors, like, I'll, like sometimes if you actually get them talking eventually about something and you actually kind of get into all their consume, I'm like, my mind's melted. I'm like, "Oh my gosh, you know
Yeah.
so much about this," and I'm like in the back of my head, I'm like, "And you're not blasting on it?" Like, you know?
Right. Yeah.
But it's like, there is so much there, right? The standard is high in that area, and then I think in the other areas, it's like, just create a standard in, like, the
Yeah.
low
Right.
ones. Like, if
Yeah.
you just
Talk it out. Right.
learn to notice something. Like, I was thinking about this morning and, like, I can't believe I'm saying this on video, but, like, I remember, like, when I first, like, moved into, like, my own apartment that, like, I didn't own a vacuum and, like, I know I didn't own a mop. I think I had a brush pan, but, like, I don't know, like, I never looked at my floors for, like, years. Like, I can only imagine, like, what the standard of my floor was, and
Yeah.
I actually remembered a friend of mine came over, and she's like, "Oh, do you have a broom I could sweep up your kitchen?" And I was
Yeah.
like, "Huh?" And this is like I never saw it. Like, I never
Yeah.
consumed it, I couldn't see it, and then, like, as I've gotten older, I've started to be like, you know where to notice things. You know that this
Right.
exists. You know that, like, you can look on the outside of your cabinet door and it might be dirty, but I know to look there now. I
I
didn't
know.
know to
Right.
look there my whole life, you know? And I
Yeah.
thought it was like, but like now I know. And so now my consciousness can pick up on it and I can create a standard, but it's like I had to know it was there
Right.
first, you know?
I know. I'm the same way. I'm the same way. Yeah, having the squirrel has helped me. Like, I won't vacuum the floor for myself, but I'll vacuum the floor because she got peanut shells all over the place.
Pets do
Yeah,
that. Yeah.
yeah,
They make
it's a
you
weird.
notice it because, like, you have to, fend on behalf of someone else's life that could be in jeopardy if you don't get your shit
Yeah.
together.
Yeah, yeah, I just the worst with Cody where it's like I would go in and I would see everything that's out of order of his room, and then I go into my room and everything is, like, off the record. It's like the
Yeah.
consume last is only looking out that way, especially when it comes to, like, sensory stuff, the sensory, the chores, the trash can, the floors, or whatever.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's a very interesting one. Because yeah, you just feel like, once you go into demon land, it's like it's off the record. That's another good phrase. Like, where are
Yeah.
you off the record in life? It
Totally.
applies to everybody else, but not you in this one area. You need a break.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, the floors are a good one. I actually got another vacuum on the way. So the vacuums are, I went through the same experience, same
Mhm.
exact thing, and I've had to have my whole come to Jesus moment with vacuums, and
Yep.
I've been going strong ever since. And
Mhm.
nowadays, they're not to do a commercial for vacuums. But oh my god, like
I
there's
wanna
so
hear it
many
now.
there's so many battery operated. You gotta here comes a blaster
The
lesson.
handheld ones without the wire?
Yes, yes, but yes, what I'm finding is you gotta like you gotta not get the so I'm finding like certain vacuums for certain jobs. So it's like
Mhm.
the one where there's like, squirrel shit in the windowsill or whatever. It's like get an exact vacuum right there where she always
Yes.
goes every morning. She always goes in the same spot. Don't like,
Mhm.
oh, let me get the vacuum and get the attach. No, no, no. You get the
N
small one that's just for that
right.
and you just leave it right there. And then the other
Mhm.
one where she gets the peanut shells everywhere, you get this vacuum, the Makita one, because it doesn't have the wheel, because it just throws it. It just has
Mhm.
the shop vac kind of attachment, and that just goes
Mhm.
right there. And you get the battery
Yeah.
charger, and but yeah, now just like making a whole game out of it. Of now, once I start to see it and accept it, then the blast comes in and starts going crazy.
To
That's
organize
always
it, yeah.
yeah, yeah, and
Yeah.
that's always fun. Like as soon as we feel like we're like the consume last, are like crabs. We're like once they leave the shell, they're like oh, and then once they grab the shell, they're like oh, I love this one.
Yeah.
It's like once I'm forced to consume something, then it's green eggs and ham. That's one to put down on your notes.
Yeah.
That's what the consume last is, the green eggs and ham, where reality's chasing us. And you're like, hey, Dick, you'd actually really like vacuums and really be good at them. And you'd really have a fun time owning vacuums and floors and all that
Yeah.
stuff. And
Yeah,
then
and
you're,
it's always new though. Like that's the little joy that we get to have our entire lives is like we consume so little that like we'll have these like fun, exciting moments of discovering vacuums throughout our life, you
yeah,
know?
right, right, right. And all the EPs are like, oh my gosh, you're going to die. And you haven't even got 1% of it.
Yeah, I know. And like and I can't help like hold back my excitement sometimes like when I like discover a thing and like I remember a few years ago so it was like gum. Like I had never like I don't know if I know I'd had gum before but like I was like I didn't realize I liked gum. And I'm like, "Have you guys tried like gum is great." Like
Yeah.
and everyone was like, like this has been out for a long time, Lindsay. And then
Yeah.
but like yeah, like and the vacuum thing is so relatable. I just had before we started this the tubes to the AC clog, and like I have my system
Yeah.
done now with my shop vac. And like so like right before this I was like out there with the shop vac because it's like I don't want it to then make the AC not work anymore. But
You got the
um
AC going in December?
yeah, it's South Florida, man. It gets hot
Oh
down
my
here.
god. Oh my god. Yeah, Jerry Seinfeld, he did his, Comedians Getting Coffee show, and, I don't know, it was like he was in his 50s the first time he ever had coffee, and he's like, "This is amazing," and then has done a show, with, coffee, IJ,
I love it.
somehow got around coffee all those years. "No, that's right. No
Yeah.
thanks, no thanks."
I know, I know. Okay, cool. Let's hop on over to play last. So and I'm gonna feel like kind of channel like someone in play last in my mind that this one was a little bit harder for me to come up for scenarios that like kind of get that person that's play last. But from people you've talked to, where do you see the play last getting overly triggered?
Yeah, that's a good one, and that's a real good one. I technically have play as a demon, so I can relate,
Yeah.
but it's a
Mhm.
big difference. It's you could really see that from looking at the double activated sleep. So go in through
Mhm.
the angle of you're in your zone, you're focused, you're doing your stuff. It's very important. Maybe it's very important and you don't like it, like taxes, or maybe it's very important and you do like it. You're getting ready for your show
Mhm.
or whatever. And imagine just the tribe shows up with the stupidest clown show, idiotic thing of,
Yeah.
hey, do you want to go throw eggs at cop cars? You're like, what? What the hell? No, wait, what, like just the
Yeah.
explosion of what the hell did you just ask me, and the extreme drain of not being able to put down. They were just in the middle of something, and so
Yeah.
the play last when they show up to events, they're still back at the office or they're back in their sleep going, oh, I was just about to solve the equations of this or whatever I was, and
Yeah.
can't engage with the tribe. And again, the same advice of like focusing on turning down the sleep energy or having a time of the day of like how long is enough. If you're going to be
Mhm.
blasting all day, can you want to wrap that up by 3 o'clock? Can we put an objective, accountable time on that?
Right.
How long do you want to be in your head solving the answers of the world? If we come and see you at 4, could you then come out? And that those kind of conversations really work. They really, really work.
Yeah.
And then also too, like having the loved one on board, knowing that like, okay, we're going to play this exchange,
Mhm.
but then also respecting the play last person just doesn't have that much muscle, in
Yeah.
that area. Because even when you and I are like, okay, I'm seriously like when Shani's helping me with my consume, she also knows like, okay, it's been 20 minutes, we're done for the day.
Yeah.
When I'm giving it my all, and
It's
I'm
very
trying.
kind of her.
Yeah, because your muscles are like
They're
you
fatigued, yeah, they're twitching at that
yeah,
point.
they're all atrophied.
Yeah.
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 So yeah, I'm a big fan of. So you have sleep third, so you have sleep. So it's like I try and get down to where am I feeling that? Where's a scenario where I'm like, hey, I'm
Mhm.
in my zone. Like, don't bother me right now. And then expanding that way out, and then attaching the triggering feelings as what the
Yeah.
playlists are feeling.
And I really can relate, and I wonder if it's also like a number 3 specialized thing, but, like, it's very hard for me to get my brain in the momentum of, like, all the engines running in the same direction, and then, like, the thing gains momentum as I'm kind of processing it and thinking about it and then actually doing the thing. It's so much
Yeah,
energy in my mind and my body, that, like, when the interruptions do happen, it's like, the whole train has to stop,
yeah,
and it's just like it's so, it's so draining, and it's like having played a savior,
yeah.
it's like I'll, like, stop and, like and,
Right.
I think, like, a lot of, like, people who are on my team at this point, they kinda know when it's like, "Okay, Lindsay's running on all cylinders," just, like, don't come up to her with, like, anything that's,
Yeah,
that you can't answer yourself if you really dug into it, because like, and so, I think that's coming across better now. But it's like for me, it's like it's a ton of like it's a big burden,
yeah,
but it's also, having a responsibility to it as well. But
yeah.
man, there's
Right.
there's no joy in it.
Yeah, right. Exactly it. Exactly. That's exactly the way to do it because everybody feels that way at some time to some
Mhm.
degree. And then, yeah,
Yeah.
then amplifying that way up going, wow, if that was my main thing, that's what my play last friends are going through. It's also cool too, like if you know the stuff of like you can ask your play last friend, "Hey, what are you thinking about? What are you working on?"
Mhm.
And they'll be like, "Really?
Yeah.
You want to hear this?"
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, totally. I remember one time I was, and again, coming back to like the lack of respect towards the last animal. I was with someone who was play last. They had invited two people over to their house, and like, oh yeah, come see the house, kind of thing. And then we're like, was there for like 30 minutes, and then they were like, well, you guys can go now. And like, I literally could not believe, like, I was like, just like inviting people over and you just told them to leave
Yeah.
like 30 minutes later. And like, I was like, oh my gosh, like that is like, it was just like the lack of respect towards like the social like situation that they had kind of brought upon
Yeah.
themselves. But like, okay, now it's like energy exchange time. Like that's what we do now. Like you had someone come
Yeah.
over, you decided to do this. Now it's time for
Right.
energy
But
exchange.
they only had
But
30
I,
minutes of muscle.
nah, yep, done.
Yeah. That's crazy. Yeah,
Yeah.
and like just like no, like that's realistic too. Like I find that like knowing that like planning on that like if you can get your loved ones involved, it does work. Because that's definitely the hard thing I see is like if somebody is play last and they're trying to go to the thing, they have to then have a partner that knows and understands. Look, I am only going to go to the thing for 30 minutes. Now, whether
Yeah.
I tell you that on the front end or whether you're upset at me or not, like the reality
Hmm.
is I can only take it that long. But I want to grow. I want to push that to 31 minutes eventually. I want to do that rather than nothing.
Yeah.
And if the
Yeah. Then
loved
they can
one
be aligned. Yeah.
yeah, right, right. And I do see that happening, when you have people that are close that both know the op stuff and they're doing a trade, they're like, okay, but then you have that kind of mercy and compassion and empathy on me when I got to do my demons. Because once you're doing your demons, you want to do them longer than 20 minutes? Like you can't, you
Hmm.
know? So it's like just bringing in the consciousness helps, but otherwise it just feels, it feels so, it feels well, yeah, it's like the playlist will feel very personal to the tribe, but it's not. The playlist
Yeah.
feels like, why do you not want to hang out at my birthday party? Or like the consume
Yeah.
last, it's like, why do you guys just want to wear the same shirt every day? I mean, that's weird. I mean, it doesn't bother me, but that's what you want to do.
Yeah.
So where not all of the animals are equal in their mathematics, but they're not equal like in their social shock,
Right.
you know?
Yeah. 100%. And certain people and certain types will pick up on the shock more than others,
Yeah.
and in their particular,
Right.
uh, in their strengths, right? So,
Yeah.
um, so with the sleep less, I notice just in general, like I feel like people with sleep less, I just feel like they have way more energy than I do. Just I'm like, man, like they can go and they can go and they can go and they can go. And like whereas like having sleep third, I feel like I hit that crash and I'm always trying to like prepare for the crash and like make sure like how do I oh gosh, if I do this one thing, I'm not gonna have energy to do that. So like I can't do two things in a day that
Right.
are, and so like I've the biggest narrative of my life, I've seen that energy dom like side of myself,
Yeah.
especially having and like that hobby sleep where it's like I have a lot of attention on it, but it's also like, not doing it as much as I
Right.
really want to. So with the sleep last, where do you see them get triggered?
Yeah, they're a good one. They trigger everybody else, it seems like. So,
I think so
yeah,
too.
I noticed a big thing I've been looking at with Sleep Last is especially getting to know people in real life, as the years go on here with the op stuff,
Mhm.
um, and just seeing how much they'll ask the same questions over and over again, where it sounds cute and it sounds funny and it sounds like they're learning and it sounds like they're doing play, but then you realize like, okay, it's now 4 years later and like there hasn't been any traction based upon people have told you
What
this
they've
answer.
gotten.
Yeah.
No
So that's
processing. Yeah.
that's what I see and so it's weird because it turns to me with NI, it's like you get enough time and enough data, like you just dramatically simplify the equations.
Yeah.
So for me, animalistically, when I see a lot of people that are sleep last, I'm like, oh, here's somebody who is very boring and in a sleep cycle, meaning
Mhm.
they're only going to talk about the same old thing. Now, their same old thing is maybe 18 hours long. It's maybe 5,000 questions, but really, if you hang around that person for enough years, you realize it seems like it's a new question, but there's really 18 hours worth of questions. So once that 18
Yeah.
hours is up, they're right back where they started. And then once my NI locks onto that, I don't fall for it anymore. I'm like, oh, they're not. it feels like they're asking questions and new experience and new and new and new, but that's what they do all the time. That's what they're always doing. And that
Mhm.
itself becomes this trapped routine. And then you see it as like all of your other friends and yourself, like 4 years later, kind of like all grow and level up. And then now they have different problems and they're in different stages of life and they have new questions. And then that sleep last person is still asking the same questions, going in the same circle, you know? So it's what I see with my sleep last friends, and you and I will get into this because you're save or
Mhm.
play, and we're both
Mhm.
extroverted. So it's like we'll just get going too fast, and like the answer is right there or right there. So like you might do this because you technically have sleep and consume as a demon. So it's like there'll be times where you'll be asking somebody a question and like either you could look it up with your consume or you could slow down and process. But I mean they're right there and you're in a flow and you know they have the answer. So just give me that real quick, you know? So it's just doing that too much and it's like the give a man a fish, teach him to fish kind of thing. It's like
Yeah.
it's a lot of short-term dopamine to just you're moving quick, you're on a construction site, you're trying to get something done like, "Hey, could you just," and you're just going really fast, but then the long term is that person isn't learning how to get access to those kind of answers and questions when nobody else is in the room. And that's where they'll have a really hard time. And therefore, they won't go into their sleep world and it's just like the consume less. And they'll just start doubling down on, oh, well, I need to talk to people more. I need to do play energy
Right.
more. I need to have more meetings more so I can get
Yeah.
to my inner world, you know? Gary
Yeah.
Vee's got that pretty bad. I've seen him be alone for 30 seconds in an elevator. He's like panicking. Like he has just zero ability to just calmly go in his inner world for 20 minutes, you know?
Yeah. And it's like I feel like the kind of questions you could only really peg someone with like on this is because like they're gonna want them play the question game is like you have to kind of double in on like only things they can answer themselves, you know? So like one of the ones I had written down was this is kind of like NF, but like what is something that would make you feel more whole today? Um, because it's like you can't extrovertedly get that answer. You know, you have to
Yeah,
go and like you can only ask yourself that answer. And like that's not something you've heard someone else really probably talk about recently. And so you're stuck having to find that for yourself and drag it out of yourself.
right.
Um, whereas like I've heard, you know, a lot of the sleep first, you know, like yourself, who are not necessarily like that question, but like they're very aware of where they are with themselves in any given moment. You
Yeah,
know, if
right.
they're unhappy with themselves, like, you know, they know that. If they are happy with where things are, if they're not content with, you know, where they're kind of tracking on a certain thing, like they're so aware of that.
Yeah.
And it's like you'll see the sleep loss where it's like they don't have that awareness with that information the same way.
Right, they're just too busy. They're just going. Yeah, because the saver sleep is like, I'm gonna say no to all the birthday party shit so I can go quietly process. And like, I'll feel like with my saver sleep, by the way, my saver sleep versus like a play last saver sleep, like I bow down. Those guys are
Yeah.
that's like real sleep. Like I'm like I'm doing all right with sleep, but not compared to those guys. Like they've got stuff like really sorted. I feel like as a stupid extrovert, I'm like constantly sneaking it in, you know. So like
Mhm.
in between the down times as I'm waiting for something or whatever, I'll sit there and I'll sleep. I'll do my sleep energy here and there, just enough to
Mhm.
get so it's just enough so I do know, okay, where am I at? How am I
Yeah.
feeling? What do I like? What am I going through?
Yeah.
And but not I'm still too busy to give it its full time. But this the sleep last. I was gonna say something about what I'm seeing with them. I do know that eventually, like, they'll get that crash, and then they're kind of
They'll
forced
run themselves off the cliff.
yeah, like, they'll get the
Yeah.
hospital it's usually like a hospital scene, you know, they're at the hospital bed type deal,
Which
you
someone
know,
I
and
think
then they
in our community, I think he was sleep last recently, ESTP. I don't know if you heard that story. Um, we could talk about that later. But just shocking running yourself off the cliff. And like I could not believe like what first of all the human body is capable of doing, but like then also it's just like oh, that person is now just stuck. Like you can't Gary V run away. You have
yeah.
to be stuck with yourself at that point.
Yeah, right, right. Yeah, and it's just it's oh, I remember what I was gonna say. It's just like a negative. It's just a it's so silly that we have these. I randomly don't want to buy myself a shirt. It's like what the like it just your chemical wiring. Just here it is in the middle. Nobody gets the middle. You either get this or this or this
Mhm.
or this, and you just get
Right.
something that so it's so arbitrary, it's so subjective, it's so not real, and whatever you're randomly allergic to, the sleep less or allergic to quietly going inside their own mind and sorting out their own shit, which they totally can do, just like you and I can go, get a new shirt or whatever, we can do it. We
Mhm.
just freak out when we do it. So
Yeah.
what the the angles I've been trying to attack because I feel like I feel like kind of my responsibility in the ops community is like, okay, great, we kind of discover this stuff. I don't know if anyone's paying attention. That shit got boring real
Mhm.
fucking fast. It's now like, okay, so what the hell do I do with my life? So I've been like trying to get a head start
Mhm.
and go, what is now the path of self growth in this very crazy world we find ourselves in? So one of the things that I'm working on now, I've been using for myself and recommend to others is like creating the social standards. So it's like so really like breaking this into steps. So it's like
Mhm.
just like you're going to get less worse for a while and then you'll slowly start to get better, so don't try and jump to perfection. So
Yeah.
what I do for let me hit sleep last, let me hit consume last first. So it's like I try and be aware of like what is the consume not last standard of society, like FE. They're like, hey, would you
Yeah.
pay attention? So it's like,
Mhm.
okay. So and then what do I have to work with? I'm like, I have masculine sensory. Like, okay, great. Then work with that. Like, work with whatever you can, right? So I'm like,
Mhm.
all right. So masculine sensory, a good YouTuber changes out their studio once a year. Okay, great. So once a year, change out the studio. Okay, it's been 2 years. Have you changed it out? No. Damn it. Fuck. Okay, but all right. So I'm behind the social average, but I'm aware of that. That
Mhm.
counts. So when the tribe was like, "Hey, your
Does.
videos are kind of boring," I'm like, "I know they are because I'm not meeting up to the social average." Yeah, your
Right.
thumbnails look like shit too, and they're really important for views. I know, I do know that,
Mhm.
and I'm not on that. And like, hey, isn't that the same shirt? It is. So it's like I am consciously aware of the social
Where
standard,
you're
just not getting
ranking.
these standards, these Tony Robbins standards. And then the next few years is you just watch yourself like not fucking meet any of them, and but you're just sitting here watching this train wreck going, no wonder my life was so hard and so full of anxiety. But then when the Grim Reaper comes to like kick your ass, you're like, da, 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 nope, 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 sorry, that was me. Um, you're not fighting
Mhm.
anymore. You're
Yep.
not going, well, no, you. Like, oh my gosh, now you're making it so
You
much
own up
worse.
to it because you're like, "Yep, guilty as charged."
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I learned that with the IRS when I was in tons of debt with them, years ago. Like when I'm sorry. They're like, oh, you said sorry. I'm like, yeah, I did wrong. I wanted you right. Like, oh, okay. And then like they put this paperwork down of like we're gonna kill you, and then they pulled up this paperwork of like we're gonna help you. I'm like, you're gonna
Mhm.
help me? They're like, yeah, we can help you with your taxes. We can help you figure it out. We can help you through it. We can help you with payment plans. We can have an agent
Yeah.
talk to you every Wednesday. I'm like, you're gonna help me? And it's just like the attitude of like I
Yeah.
wasn't gonna and I'm like that one really. I'm like, well, what else can I do with that? So with the sleep last, what I've been telling a couple sleep last friends is like, hey, would you set a goddamn standard of you are allowed to ask me one question a month? So you want to fucking ask your question? We used to do that with Cody when he was a kid, like the nickel jar. Like, okay,
Uh-huh.
is is it really one
This
question?
is your
Yes.
one.
Yeah.
You
And
ready to spend it on this?
right. And all it is questions about the question game. So playing the question game, like you would to a kid, like, hey, you only like it doesn't have to be once a month. It's like set some kind of a standard that you yourself
Mhm.
are watching other people going, be consciously aware, how many dumb questions does the average person
Yes.
ask each other? And
Mhm.
get that reference down and see what that number is and just be aware of it. And then watch yourself blow past that. And that's all right. And that's all right. Because
Mhm.
over time, you can start to kind of get yourself. So if you're consume last, it's like, your studio, your clothes, your shirts. I've anchored
Mhm.
myself to being the type of person that moves houses every 4 to 7 years. I found that that's a good
That's a good
mix
one,
up
of
for me.
course, yeah. Yeah.
Right, right, right. Whether that happens in the sensor or not, I know that's good. So finding those standards of sleep less, careful with the questions, um, and then the other one that I see myself use as saver sleep is like, don't trip over the same thing twice. Again, this is not literal.
Yeah.
All day long, I'm making the same stupid mistakes, but it's like, hold yourself accountable to, are you having the same problem, the same question, the same issue over and over
Yeah.
again, that you're not
Mhm.
off the record when it comes to time. You
Mhm.
are wearing out people if they've tried to help you with the same thing and you're acting like it's brand new to them. they do have sleep energy, so they're remembering, you know. Anyways, those
Mhm.
standards, and then it's a couple of years of, you know, watching yourself fail miserably, and then, you know, starts to get a little better,
Mhm.
right? That's
Yeah.
what I'm seeing when I'm watching the old people, you know. So I'm trusting that path because I do feel like, um, I feel like as a 46-year-old, I'm just as screwed as a 26-year-old. We're almost as screwed, like, because the people that I see, like Mandy Pinkin or whatever, this like double masculine guy, I did a video on him yesterday, and it's like, he said, he's like, I'm so glad I didn't die at 52 and I lived to be in my 60s, which I am now, so my kids could see me grow up and become this better man. And I'm like yelling at the camera. I'm like, did you hear that? 52. The guy's still a dumbass at 52. So you
Yeah.
gotta know that, like I'm gonna be stuck in these consume last loops for another couple
Mhm.
of years. The fact that I can at least see them, I'm
Mhm.
way ahead in the sense that my goal is I just want to shave 10 to 20 years off the brutality of this process. I don't want to be
Yeah.
80 years old and being like, hey kids, I want to be more like 60 years old so I have some life left to actually do something with it, you know?
Yeah. And it's finding where the objectivity lies and like in your perceived, struggle. Um, it's, I can see so much how when things feel real to you, that's all you see is how real they feel in that moment, right? It's like you don't really see outside of that very easily. It's just like I'm really entrenched in whatever this is that's gotten me elevated to this state, right?
Yeah.
But like I feel like the first step is saying like when you're feeling that, just being like, is everyone doing this in this situation? Because you know, okay, so what's the contrary? So if a tiger runs into a room of people tomorrow, everyone's running and trying to go to the exit,
Right.
right?
Right.
It's like objectively, everyone's having the same experience given that input, right? So you can
Right.
say like it's a pretty much everyone's gonna be scared of the wild tiger. Okay.
Right.
So in this particular situation, I think I mentioned to you one time I realized that like I wasn't able to go to this parking garage unless I had pre-segmented out like $2 in my wallet into a separate area of my
Here
bag.
we
So I had to
go.
fiddle with my wallet. And like I
Yeah.
realized at some point just that like I just noticed that like I couldn't kind of go not have that sequence of events right with my wallet.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then I just asked myself, is everyone doing this? And then I'm like, definitely not.
That's good. Yeah.
And I realized that there's some people who are totally comfortable reaching into their wallet, finding the $2 or not, and
Yeah.
just dealing with it and kind of going from there.
Yeah.
And when I realized that, I was like, "Oh, that's where I am. Like, that's where I fall, like, on this particular," and that's I think it's
Right.
more the single observantness right there. But,
Right.
like, I saw so much where I fell to one side, but it's something I would have never have noticed, I think, if I wasn't in trying to seize my own psychology.
Yeah.
And
Right.
so you have to just the things that are kind of like the patterns that you'll start to see, asking yourself, like, is everyone else doing this? Is this a tiger situation where everyone's running and
Right.
like objectively true? Or is
Right.
this like a me thing, you know?
Yeah, right, totally. Absolutely. Yeah, that's exactly what we're leveraging is the social average and then also giving yourself credit on the other side that when it comes to double deciding, you naturally have a balance of you are not freaking out like half the population is or a percentage of the population is,
Mhm.
where some people are rolling through the parking situation, you're
Yeah.
rolling through, you know, somebody made fun of you at the poker table and you're like, whatever, this
Yeah.
guy, where
Yeah.
somebody else would be totally traumatized by that. But
Yeah.
yeah, I think uh, I think the FEs have got an interesting, good, useful way of looking at things of playing this social average game. You know, because
Mhm.
FI just
That's a
like
good way. Yeah.
yeah,
Very
you know,
fair.
like FEs like I remember like you know when we were like hardcore Christians and stuff. Like when I would hear FE people talk, it would really scare me. I'm like, no, 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 you can't like be movable on the values because then you end up like with a Hitler situation and stuff. Which are some good points of
Yeah.
that, but like I get now what they're saying. They're like, hey, Dick, like things are the social average is kind of swaying over time. You might just want to pay attention to that.
Yeah, just pay
And
attention. Just
that
notice where it is. You
right,
don't have to do
right,
anything. We're not forcing you, you know?
right,
Don't
right,
get all hot and bothered in your FI because like we're
right,
trying to
right,
like move your own value. No, it's just like,
right.
do you notice?
Very much so. Now, if you know your type, you know exactly where to look. So it does save you a lot of time of like, if you're a single observer, EP or IJ, really much the same. You're just not as the social tribe is moving this way over the decades with control chaos, you're out of sync. You're screwing it up. You're
Mhm.
freaking out in
Yep.
some way, shape, or form. And then same with the last animal or whatever. But yeah, that's really good that you're like that that's what we say with like catch a few. Like
Mhm.
if you're an IJ and you're in a parking garage, I would hope to God you'd be able to, if you're paying attention, catch that.
Catch it. Mhm.
that, yeah. And then know that all of us IJs are feeling exactly the same way. And the
Yeah.
double observers are not. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly, and like you're saying with the double deciding, the just like something can roll off your back, it's like the single deciders, it's just like that is I feel like if they really looked at themselves compared to the double decider, they would be able to see like, okay, well, why are they really not having that? Why are they not having that reaction? Why is that
Right.
like why is it not bothering them? But like in the moment, it's just like that's just what you're doing. That's just what you're
Right.
experiencing. You do see a lot of poker because there's definitely more double observers in poker, I would say overall.
Oh wow.
Because it's just like you kind of need to be using both, and it's been so
Yeah.
good for me to learn to like have a price to like missing an observation,
Yeah, right.
missing a
Right.
sensory. Like I don't get to
Yeah.
wiggle around it anymore. I have to like
Yeah.
actually pay attention. So it's a very good training tool for me. But with the single
Yes.
deciders, you'll see occasionally you'll get an EP who will sneak in and they'll realize they're dealing with an IJ or an EJ or an IP, and
Yeah.
they're like they start to troll them. And like it goes from 0 to 100 so fast. Someone who was calm, cool, and collected with all the
Yeah.
observations, all good, wasn't feathers, wasn't ruffled. The EP comes in, and all of a sudden, this person's standing up and like
Yeah.
slamming their cards on the table, and I'm just like, wow, like to them, like that is so real. Like that
Yeah.
experience is so real, and someone's using it against them, but like still, it's like it's so real in that moment. So it's amazing how we can't really escape, but it's like just like in that moment, if the person could stop and say, "This happened to someone else, and they didn't react this way. Why?" You
Yeah,
know?
right. Right. That's so damn good. And it's a weird, interesting, almost sad thing that what we're naturally good at, we don't get the dopamine spikes or whatever, and we just don't value it. I think I see a lot of people that are wildly successful in life is when they trade teams, where the double observer decides to go all in on the things. One of these
Mhm.
military airplane channels I watch, the guy's some ESFJ, and I'm like, this is very odd. And we saw that in the RC community that 1 out of 20 or 30 people would be some decider. Because now that the tribe is big enough, here comes the deciders. They
Yeah,
don't really care about
sure.
the planes; they care about the
Yeah.
culture or whatever. And just watching like the ESFJ guy, like how well he can navigate through information, because it's like he's doing this here because he's worried
It's
about.
it's amazing.
Yeah, yeah. And so I do try and play around with. It's a weird kind of FI trick of like, the more I love something, I want to train myself to not love it so I can get into flow state. And it's a trick. I'm trying to trick the
Yep.
universe. I'm trying to trick
Yeah.
my own body. It's like, of course I love this and I want world peace and I want everything. But if I keep obsessing over that, then I'm going to get single about it and I'm going to mess it
Mhm.
up. But if I'm like, yeah, whatever, sure, it'll work, then I'm allowed to stay in that flow state. And that's helped dramatically, like just
Mhm.
even like setting up for the Zoom call or whatever. I already had to be like, all right, if I can't hack into Zoom, that's all right. I could call Lindsay, we can do it again, or I can get Shan, or just trying to
Yeah.
calm it
Like
down.
de-escalate yourself like first. And
Right,
like
because then,
yeah, yeah.
yeah, because now then you're allowed to use the other functions. But if you're scared, it's savers only.
Yeah,
Hi.
I noticed the same exact thing. It's like if I start to feel that in me, it's like it's really like in the body. It's the pot that slowly boils. Once I start feeling that, if I can just quickly turn on to like fake news, not
Yeah,
real,
right,
not real,
right,
and like and then it's just like it's fake, it's fake, it's fake. I just have
yeah,
brainwashed myself with it's not real, Lindsay. Then
right,
I actually am able to move through it.
right,
It was so much of the times before when it was like, no, this is so real, and this
right.
is like then you're like now you're just going off the ramp, and like it's very hard to like then get grounded again, or if it's like it's the
Yeah,
crash burn grounded version.
yeah. Very much so, very much. It takes a few years to get through it all, huh? Because along the way, like as you let go of your fears are fake, a lot of other things get let go as well. Like
Mhm.
positive things. Well, my life is also fake, and love is fake, and God is fake,
Everything.
and everything goes in the fake can, which is
Yeah.
also part of the conscious process of like evolution is trying to say like, hey. can you consciously take charge of what I got you started with here? Like, look, you got a
Mhm.
bunch of great programs and they all default go exactly how everyone else of your silly type does. But
Mhm.
you're allowed to, that's why you see all the people that make it to the other side. They talk about this conscious choice. I remember studying the
Mhm.
Navy SEALs, and that was the thing that hit me when I first started studying them years ago, that surprised me the most, where they said winning here is a conscious decision. Make up your mind whether you want to choose to win or fail. I'm like, what? Like I didn't run fast enough. I like
Yeah.
what does conscious choice have to do with it? But it's like when you
Mhm.
watch documentaries, it's all they're saying. They're like, stop with your bullshit. Do you want to be here or not? Do you want to consciously choose to do this or not? And
Mhm.
Susan David is somebody that I really like to. Even though she's a very different type than me, I think
Yeah.
like Byron Katie, she has, and Wes Watson, I think they've got some of the best equations where they've worked this all down. If you really are in that spot to, rather than go through it all yourself, you get in that open state, like, okay, I see that you went through it all. Can I just actually listen to what you're saying and try and take that in and make it work? But they talk
Yeah.
about having these conscious choices, conscious decisions, creating a
Yeah.
space. I can choose to be the freaked out IJ one more time and I still feel it, or I can
Mhm.
choose I'm going to move my body a different direction.
Yeah,
But
and
yet,
and also the more that you it the more awareness that there is, the less you're able to choose the path of ignorance, I feel like, because it's like, you don't get ignorance is bliss anymore the more you expose yourself to, like, seeing the other side. So even if you're
right,
not doing it, if you're brainwashing yourself with the right information and, like, the right stuff to facilitate your movement forward, then it's like you slowly get squeezed out of where you were because it's
right,
like I can't choose something that I just know, like, I can't eat McDonald's for 5 meals a day because, like, at this point, like, yeah, I just know it's gonna give me a heart
right,
attack. Like, I can't pretend
right.
like I don't know anymore, you
Yeah,
know?
right. Right, and what you're saying about setting up the poker as a continual way to punish yourself for missing sensory, I feel
Yeah.
like, this is where, like, the David Goggins style stuff does come in. It's like
Mhm.
pushing on your demons and growing on your demons is a perishable skill. So if you
Mhm.
haven't done it for a couple of days, don't think that next month when the hard times come, you're good to go. You're fucked. I saw
Yeah.
with writing, a couple of years ago, I did, about a year and a half of writing every morning, doing those terms that are on the website, the ebook and stuff like that.
Mhm.
And so then the past year I haven't been doing writing, and now I'm doing writing. And, writing is hard for an INTJ, with the sensory at the
Mhm.
bottom. And
Yeah.
so I'm now writing again every morning, doing the profiles, which I finally feel ready to actually write out. Okay, here's your type.
Nice.
Here's and like actually put it out. It is for so much like math equation cleanup, because like some coins you'll see really clear and you're like, oh, I have no
Mhm.
idea what the hell NE is doing, and it exposes that because you got to get to match this
Yeah.
chapter. So
Yeah,
there's
that's
two
a part of the
months.
double observing. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
right, right.
Yep,
So
you
the
have to make it match
profiles
in
are,
the real. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So it catches the imbalances. So I'm really enjoying it. I'm getting so much growth. I love how they're turning out and stuff. But anyways, the point is like I watched the perishable skill of like it felt like 2.5 months straight to get back into writing is now moving and it's going faster because I just had to end up rewriting stuff over and over again because I'm consumed last going too fast. I'm writing too much. Now
Mhm.
I got to rewrite it 10 times. I don't have
Yeah.
any SI system, just a mess. And that's what I went
Yeah.
through when I was writing the other stuff. And that still needs another couple layers on it. But the point is like, I once it started to settle again, I'm like, oh, there's that 3 month mark. There's that perishable skill. When just another quick example, we had a punching bag, and I've had a punching bag I've used ever since like high school or whatever. And so like a couple of houses ago, we moved, and like the punching bag didn't come with. So there's like 2 years where I didn't have the punching bag, and then I set one up for Cody, and I went to punch the punching bag, and I'm like, oh my gosh, my hands were like noodles, like
Yeah.
zero, like all of it was gone. Like I had no
Gone.
idea. Like if I got in a fight at the gas station, I'm done. Like and so, but
Yeah.
then a couple of weeks it comes back. But it's like a scary, like a perishable skill thing. Many examples can be
Yeah.
given, right? And
Mhm.
so I do see with the demon stuff, it's like if you're not in an environment where at least every 48 hours, you're not, if you got to get fucked with in a flow state, preferably. The poker thing is genius because it forces that there's chaos inside that control and
Yeah.
that sensory, something like
And
that.
and you have to pay a price, like, if you don't objectively do the thing that you need to do, you
Right.
know?
Right. You have to experience the chemicals every day, every couple. You got to experience the chemical, and therefore, if you do it more often, you can feel those chemicals come up and then back down, And if you're sitting there researching psychology and the weeks are rolling on and you haven't, then when you do get triggered, you're out of shape. It's a perishable skill. You're going to get freaked out,
Yeah.
and
There's no
that's what
muscle
is
behind it. Yeah.
right, right. That is what's hard with it. You'll notice that with all of those that make it through the other side, all the older people, is they all have some kind of racket in their life, which now they're getting into the giving, and that they're like, yeah, I give to everybody because it gets me, it keeps challenges on me, it keeps me strong, it keeps me in the game. All of that kind of coming
Mhm.
together. Yeah.
Yeah. That's so good, Dave. Thank you for your time and the discussion on this. I think it's a really juicy topic, and it does show us how there's light on the other side, and that there is a way to continually to move through without life seeming as turbulent and volatile as it can be at
Yeah.
times.
Yeah.
So, thanks so much for coming on. Is there any last things you want to share with people?
No, that's it. That's it. Thanks for setting this up. Thanks so much for setting this up. And thanks for such a great topic. I love that your goal was to talk about the triggers in a way that we can all relate to. And then, yeah, absolutely giving the hope that it is something that we all go through. We're all going through the same grind and just kind of get it over with the growth. Yeah. So thank you.
Yep. Cool. Thanks, Dave.